This is CBC Here and Now.
Never give up. I mean, despite how difficult life can be, there is still so much beauty and joy and happiness and love.
Defying the odds, 20 years later, Elizabeth Smart tells her harrowing story of abduction and abuse and how she's helping other sexual assault survivors heal.
After a few years of taking a break, the popular endurance snowmobile race Cain's Quest is back. I'm Jeremy Eaton, I'm live in Labrador, and I have all the details coming up.
It is Dawson Mercer! That's a Devil's record!
And we'll have the latest on the kid from Bay Roberts whose pro hockey career is on fire. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Another green energy mega project is being proposed in the province, this time for central Newfoundland. The Exploits Valley Renewable Energy Corporation plans to put in a bid to construct a $6 billion wind to ammonia project in the Botwood and Grand Falls, Windsor areas. At full scale, it would require around 300 wind turbines to generate 3,000 megawatts of energy. The project would utilize old Abitibi pulp and paper lands and the Botwood port. The company has been holding public information sessions about the proposal. Here Now's Troy Turner was in Botwood this week to speak with residents about what they think about the idea.
It's being touted as a possible economic savior for the region, one that can change the landscape, literally and figuratively, of central Newfoundland. And many in the Botwood area are hoping the wind to ammonia project proposed by the Exploits Valley Renewable Energy Corporation comes to fruition.
We got support from the community from Lead and Diggles to Grand Falls for this project, everyone behind it. And we feel that was one of our major success stories. We let the people know early.
Jim Sevier has seen his community shrink. Since pulp and paper giant Abitibi closed up shop, the population of Botwood has nearly been cut in half.
We just can't wait for something to turn around. As you know, in our town, we're like a lot of rural Newfoundland. Our demographics are such that a big part of our population is aging. We came from an industrial port area. We've always had big business here, or big corporations. Abitibi pulled it in 2010. And of course, our town is, let's say, somewhat spiraled.
The mayor says support for the project has been overwhelming, and he downplayed any local resistance, as seen in brochures in the community. For the business community of Botwood, the possibilities are endless.
A lot of people coming to the area, looking for work and moving to the area to live. There would certainly be a need for housing. It would certainly stretch all of our businesses, but certainly very good for the economy.
We get 500 new jobs. I mean, there's going to be a demand for housing. There's going to be a demand for more retail. There's endless the possibilities.
Derek Sevier says it's been hard watching his community change over the years.
Well, it would be tremendous for the economy of Botwood. Since Abitibi left in 2009, our populations decreased from close to 5,000 to around 3,000. Our monarchy system is gone from 150, 160 kids to 70 or 80 kids. So, I mean, the younger people are not staying around because there's not much to stay around.
Right now, it's a wait and see for the people of Botwood and the surrounding area to see what happens next month when this project is up for approval. Until then, the mayor says he'll continue to keep residents informed of what happens every step along the way. Troy Turner, CBC News, Botwood.
So what makes the Botwood area such an attractive location for a wind to ammonia project? We'll speak with some of the people behind the proposal in about 40 minutes on Here and Now. Well, after a 3-year break, Cain's Quest is back in Labrador City. About 30 teams are gearing up for the endurance snowmobile race that will span more than 3,000 kilometers across the Big Land. The winner will get bragging rights and a large cash prize. Here Now's Jeremy Eaton is in Labrador City tonight. He joins us live from an area outside the arena where Cain's Quest is hosting a fan event. So Jeremy, tell us more about what's going on there.
Well, Carolyn, I was in the arena for most of the day, but the parking lot is full, so I'm actually in the parking lot next to it, standing in front of one of the trailers of one of the teams that I spoke to earlier today, and that's how they transport these massive machines to and fro. So, like you said, this is Cain's Quest. It's a tough endurance snowmobile race that'll touch all parts of Labrador, basically. About 3,500 kilometers. I think there's 29 teams there today. And what they had this afternoon was the fan day, a fan expo, so to speak. And that was a chance for the racers to meet the fans and the fans to meet the racers. So all the snowmobiles lined the arena, and then people could just walk up, take pictures, have a chat about the gear and how people think they're going to do in this very, very tough race. But it's easy for me standing outside to talk about this, but here's what some of the people who are actually doing it had to say earlier today.
Today is what we call Fan Day, so this is where we let the public come in and have a great time looking at the snowmobiles, talking to the snowmobilers, seeing what it takes to race, seeing what the snowmobiles look like, see how people equip them out to endeavor this wild terrain that they're about to go out on. And that's what today is about, is a fan night, fan engagement day, and get the racers the time to meet to the fans and the fans time to meet the racers.
How would you describe this race?
I describe this race as the most challenging thing that anybody will ever put themselves up in front of. Just signing up for it is probably one of the most nerve-wracking things I've ever done to myself, let alone racing it. So this race here is about 3,500 kilometers, and they'll get conditions of downwards to minus 50, minus 60 with the wind chill, snow conditions of upwards to 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 feet depending on where they are, and others might not have no conditions. And it's a 24-hour, 7-day round-the-clock race with mandatory layovers, so you could be running your snowmobile. When I ran in 2016, we were 24 hours going steady, so it's not for the faint at heart.
How hard is this race?
It's pretty hard. 2018 it wasn't quite so bad because the snow conditions were good and it wasn't so rough, but this year it's going to be pretty rough. Conditions are pretty rough, low snow. Yeah, it's going to be tough.
It's the excitement and meeting all the new racers, and I guess meeting up with old friends from all over the Labrador, I suppose, and all in the Quebec area.
What have you heard about this race?
It's hard, long, and high speeds, and could be dangerous.
So that was just a small sample of some of the racers that are taking part in this endurance, what I consider one of the hardest endurance snowmobile races that you can do anywhere. So they are meeting tonight with the fans. That's going to end at about 7 o'clock local time. Then tomorrow they're going to have a brunch, have some last-minute meetings and tune-ups. And then Saturday morning is the big kickoff where all the racers will rev up here in Labrador City and they'll take off. Now, when I spoke to Chris Lacey, the organizer, he said this event will probably wrap up sometime on Thursday, but that's given the fact that they have a certain amount of layover time that they have to deal with. Now, I don't know, Ashley, if you've noticed, but I'm only wearing a hoodie and I'm not wearing gloves. It was a beautiful day here in Labrador City, and beautiful. It was warm, it was hot, and I know it's been cold the last couple of days. There's a cold snap, but today was a beautiful day, and I gotta say, it was a big day in the big land, and I've always wanted to say that. But if you want to know more about the weather, I'm not the person to talk to, as we all know. That's Ashley Brauweiler. So Ashley, how's the weather looking in your end?
Yeah, it was a nice day here too, -4, so we actually tied you in Lab City, but it felt much colder here, that's for sure. But let's talk about the conditions that some of the racers are going to see over the next little bit. Now I showed you this a little bit earlier this week, but it has been a lack of snow through February, and they kind of mentioned that there as well, just a little bit to go. But only 25 centimeters of snow fell in the Goose Bay area through February, and it looks like the pattern over the next couple of days, we're already starting to see some of that warmer air move in. You know, last week this was deep purple, which meant those temperatures were in the -20s, but right now we're getting into some of those blues. So we're, minus single digits, and watch what happens as we head through the next couple of days, we start to change the pattern. We've been under a blocking ridge of high pressure for the most part, but over the next couple of days, things are going to start to get a little bit more busy as far as weather is concerned, and our pattern shifts onshore. And this means that we will see some milder air associated with that. That also means we're going to see a lot less sunshine through the afternoon hours and, well, really through the next couple of days. But this pattern generally continues right into next week. And as far as the temperatures are concerned, all of that cold air, it's going to stay far to the north. In fact, we're going to start to see some of that warmer air move in, temperatures above zero as we head into the beginning of next week, which probably isn't that great because we could actually see some rain up across parts of Labrador. That's certainly the case across the island as well. We will talk about all the forecast details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, police have laid additional charges in connection with a string of violent events that happened on the Northeast Avalon last year. A 20-year-old St. John's man is facing multiple charges in relation to 3 incidents that took place between May and June. There was a shooting that happened in Galway on May 13th, and then there was another shooting on Goldfinch Drive in Paradise a week later, and an incident on Baker Street in St. John's. The man is in custody. He's been charged with uttering threats, assault with a weapon, as well as multiple firearms offenses. Well, 20 years ago this month, police rescued Elizabeth Smart from her captors in Utah. Smart had been missing for 9 grueling months. The story captivated people around the world. And today, Smart shared her survival story at Memorial University's Women's Leadership Conference. Now, in June 2002, Brian Mitchell abducted the 14-year-old from her bed at knife point. She was taken into the mountains, chained to a tree, repeatedly sexually assaulted, abused, and starved. Police discovered Smart and her captors, Brian Mitchell and Wanda Barzy, walking down the street in March of 2003. When she was returned home, Smart said her mother gave her some advice about how to move on from the harrowing ordeal.
She had just pulled me aside and she said to me, Elizabeth, what these people have done to you is terrible. And there aren't words strong enough to describe how wicked and evil they are. They've stolen 9 months of your life away from you that you will never get back. But the best punishment you could ever give them is to be happy and to live your life. And as I've spent, it's coming up almost exactly 20 years since I've been rescued. I don't think that she meant that I would never have a bad day or that I wouldn't feel frustration or anger or sadness or that this was fair, because let's face it, nothing about it was fair. But I think she meant never give up.
Wow, 20 years. Well, today, Smart runs a foundation dedicated to helping survivors of sexual assault. We'll have more from Elizabeth Smart coming up in about 25 minutes on Here and Now. Well, big news today for the province's transportation infrastructure. There will be a lot of activities like this summer. The government will invest a record $225 million this year to upgrade roads, bridges, and culverts throughout the province. That's millions more than a typical year, with an emphasis on upgrading infrastructure that might be vulnerable due to the effects of climate. In order to make the most of the short construction season, tenders for most projects will be released before the end of May.
We believe it's going to be a good year for the paving industry, contractors, workers. I feel very pleased to be here to talk about unprecedented amount of money to be spent this year. And we're also working with the federal government on some other projects, and we will have more news coming in the next couple of weeks that I'm going to be happy to announce.
The $225 million for roads, that's the biggest number that we've seen in quite some time. We all know the importance of infrastructure. We need it to move goods back and forth. We need it for our tourism industry, and we need it for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador to be able to drive on smooth, reliable roads throughout our province.
Well, that record investment won't go as far as it used to, though. The cost of highway construction has escalated sharply in recent years. But after a few tough years, the Road Builders Association says it's ready to take on whatever work the province can send its way. Well, from the roads to the pumps, the cost of gasoline is down slightly tonight. In its weekly price adjustment, the Public Utilities Board lowered the maximum cost by 1.8 cents a liter. That puts the price of regular unleaded gas on the Avalon at $1.62. Stove oil has gone up by close to 2 cents, while furnace oil saw an increase of nearly 5 cents a liter. Diesel is also more expensive by more than 2 cents a liter. Propane is down slightly. Well, the TikTok app is no longer allowed on any cell phone owned by the provincial government. The new policy came into effect today. Now, this move follows a similar federal decision this week. A statement from the province says there's too much risk associated with the video sharing app because the company's method of collecting data provides almost complete access to the contents of the phone. The province says there have been no reported breaches resulting from TikTok use on government mobile devices. Well, the opening of a new community center in central St. John's is delayed. This construction site on Mundy Pond Road is where the new $33 million Muse Center is being built. It's replacing the old facility nearby. The cost is on budget, but the planned opening date of this fall is being pushed back because of a problem accessing certain building materials.
We're about 60% complete, but right now we're looking at a timeline of probably the spring of 2024 to be completed. Our original target was the fall of 2023, which is this year, but due to some supply and delivery challenges with our subcontractor getting the steel in, we've had to push it out till the spring of 2024.
Well, in sports, a Newfoundland hockey player is continuing to turn heads in the NHL.
They've sent it in front, Devils score! It is Dawson Mercer! That's a Devils record.
Yes, and the goals keep on coming for Dawson Mercer of Bay Roberts. In the last 7 games, the 21-year-old member of the New Jersey Devils has racked up 14 points and set another new record with the NHL franchise, 7 goals in 7 consecutive games. Last week, he set a franchise record for the most consecutive games played by someone just starting a pro career, 141 straight games since his rookie debut at the beginning of last season.
It's a good feeling, honestly. Every night when I go out there, I want to try to contribute offensively, but also be that responsible two-way player. But, scoring goals is fun, and playing with Nico and Tuna, we've been having a great stretch right now and all contributing, and we just want to make sure we keep this going.
You have the Devils record, which is 7, but the franchise overall record back in Colorado was 8. You going to get 8 next game?
I'll try my best. I'll go out there and do what I can every night. I just take it day by day, but, I'll play my game and stick to it.
You guys, the way you've been playing since early January, you've really put yourselves in a good position. How do you feel going into this last stretch?
Yeah, this is a very important time of year, obviously, leading up to what really matters and everything, and we've been preparing all season for it, and we just want to make sure you finish strong. You want to make sure that you're ready to go when the real time comes, and make sure that we're, did everything we can to be prepared.
When I'm asked how's it going, I'm coping.
Putting a spotlight on women in song. We'll take you to a Music NL Songwriter Circle after the break.
Well, the ridge of high pressure we've been under is no more. Things change as we head through the weekend. I'll get into the details coming up.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. VIP prize deadline is midnight March 10th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Well, there's a new visitor in Daniels Harbor as of this morning. In fact, more pack ice has moved in, and that wasn't there yesterday, so it moves in fairly quickly. And if we just take a look at what's happening as far as the ice is concerned, remember in early February when this was way below normal? Some of that ice is starting to move back in since we've seen that cold snap. That is no surprise. But all of the red is the pack ice, and out there is other fragments of ice. But there's lots of icebergs in this as well. And with the pattern over the next week, week and a half, even 2 weeks, it will likely bring some of that ice further south and definitely further towards the shore. So maybe we'll see some icebergs this year. But at the moment, that's what it's looking like. Temperatures today really starting to warm up, although it didn't feel that way considering we had lots of wind, especially in St. John's. -4 was the daytime high. Temperatures in the minus single digits up across Labrador as well. And Cartwright, you hovered around -9 today. Black Tickle seeing some pretty strong winds, and that will generally continue as we head through the night tonight. So looking at those gusts upwards of about 100 kilometers per hour. Taking a look at the current temperatures, dropped a little bit in Lab City. You can see no wind chill, which is why Jeremy was not wearing a jacket. That is not the case across the island and across coastal areas of Labrador. As I said, that wind warning in place for Cartwright. But those wind chills, even though temperatures are in the minus single digits, it feels more like the minus teens, and that will continue pretty much as we head through the night tonight. Not a whole lot going on. We do have a few flurries for the west coast being picked up on the radar. That will should taper off as we head through the night tonight. In fact, looking at a chilly night into the minus double digits, between -10 and -15. The winds will stay brisk again all along the northeast coast. So northwest winds will be gusting between 30 and about 50 kilometers per hour. And then the temperatures, the coldest in Lab City down to -24. Otherwise, temperatures will be into the minus teens as we head through the night tonight. As far as the forecast is concerned, as we head through tonight and into tomorrow, not a whole lot happening other than that flurry activity on the west coast and parts of Labrador. But the winds are going to stay brisk overnight, and then we'll see a bit of relief from that tomorrow morning, and then they're going to pick back up again in the afternoon. So those winds will be gusting between as much as 40 to 60 kilometers per hour, and we're looking at that as well along coastal areas of Labrador between 40 and 60 kilometers per hour as we head into the evening hours. And then right into Saturday morning, it looks like at this point. So as far as snowfall is concerned, nothing significant. May pick up a couple centimeters again from the west and southwest coast. Same thing for Lab City. And along coastal areas of Labrador, but nothing too significant. In fact, the long-range forecast actually has some rain, and that will be the story for the northern peninsula and parts of Labrador as we get into the beginning of next week. So we'll talk about that a little later. But for now, tomorrow's temperatures are actually going to be pretty much where they were today. Minus single digits, winds out of the northwest between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. Some sunshine through the day, which will feel very nice as well. Between -3 and -6 for central and the south coast, and as you head towards the west coast, those temperatures will be fairly similar, except your winds, like I said, won't pick up until later on in the afternoon and early evening, which means these temperatures are going to feel pretty nice through the day. And then northern peninsula, you're looking at lots of sunshine tomorrow. Same thing for southeastern Labrador. Winds below warning criteria. In fact, that wind warning should end with the overnight update. And then for the rest of the big land, just some flurry activity for Nain. Like I said, temperature around -12, still hovering into the minus single digits for Happy Valley Goose Bay. But we do have those temperatures in the minus teens as you head towards Lab City. So that's a look at the forecast. We'll look at the long range when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a conclusion today in a long human rights battle between the parents of Carter Churchill and the Newfoundland and Labrador School District. Today, a 100-page decision was delivered. It says the school district failed to provide reasonable accommodation for Churchill, who's a deaf student, from kindergarten to grade 3. The district is now ordered to accommodate the student, and it owes compensation to his parents, Kimberly and Todd Churchill, compensation of almost $150,000. We'll have more details on our website at cbc.ca/NL. Well, in other news, International Women's Day is coming up next week, and today in St. John's, Music NL held an all-female songwriter circle. The event was hosted by Pam Parsons, the minister responsible for women and gender equity. Have a look.
These songwriters a warm welcome.
They tried to call, I pretended not to hear.
Well, I'm excited to be here today because it's always a cool opportunity to hear the songs of the other artists, but also to hear about the context and the stories they have to share with that. I feel like when you are part of or attending a songwriter circle, it's a different type of intimacy, and so I'm just excited to be part of that, especially on the celebration of women.
I can't sugarcoat it when I'm asked how's it going. I'm coping. Flowers in the wind, wind flies through the light, light shines in your heart.
Minister Parsons, you'll start us off whenever you are ready. And make sure Matt's good with his sound there.
I'm very proud to be the Minister of Women and Gender Equality, and it's very important to the Premier, actually, to have it a standalone portfolio and with an expanded mandate to not just support women, but of course gender diverse people.
I'm really happy I'm here today.
It's really important for us women to really get together and celebrate our goal for equality and a world free of bias.
Instead of looking at, oh, I experienced racism in this school and judging the school, no, judgment will not get anybody anywhere. So I decided to better it.
Well, she may have graduated, but this student isn't done with her former high school. She's bringing Black education back to Torbay. You'll meet Olivia Rollins just ahead. For Olivia Rollins, Black History Month is a big deal. Last year, as the only Black student at Holy Trinity High in Torbay, she pushed the school to celebrate Black excellence in February. She's since graduated, but the school is still continuing Olivia's legacy, hosting a month of history lessons and activities. Olivia was even brought back to share her insights with students.
I was the only Black student in my grade at Holy Trinity High School, and I found that in my last year, after experiencing racism, not only from students, but people around me, the area, strangers, I realized that I needed to make my lasting mark as a student. So I thought to myself, what better way to do it than to implement Black History Month? It was important for me to create that space because originally I did not have that space. That space was not made for me. So I made a space that I would have wanted made for me and that I felt other young people needed made for them as well.
So happy for this opportunity at the school, because I know my younger brother, who is a mixed baby, will be able to come to this school, and thanks to Olivia's help, he'll be able to feel seen and learn more about his culture just simply by this being implemented in the school.
I graduated in 2022. The way that I became involved again was my former teacher, Miss Kearley. She reached out to me along with Miss Brennan, and they said, hey, we're doing Black History Month.
We set up a meeting, she came in and we caught up. We can't pretend to have the lens she has. We really did need her to be our, not our filter, but our stop, wait a minute, is this how we want to say this?
We decided this year to continue to have it student-led, just the way it started. So we've been doing a number of different activities that the students have come up with.
We got together, we made activities, we did student-run lesson plans, we had something every single day of the week for the entire month.
It's important because I feel like, you know, even if I can do something, it's like just to do my small part.
To know that they're still doing this even after I've graduated, I am honored. I feel like my purpose there has been fulfilled. The things I endured as a young person, not only as a young person, but as a young Black woman, it was not the best. But I took those experiences and separated it from my educational life and my schooling. And I decided to implement within the schooling something that could make my experience more positive and make minority experiences way more positive. Because instead of looking at, oh, I experienced racism in this school and judging the school. No, judgment will not get anybody anywhere. So I decided to better it by implementing something that can help educate, which makes me feel really, really proud.
An impressive young woman. Well, as we mentioned earlier, Elizabeth Smart shared her incredible survival story today at a conference at Memorial University in St. John's. 20 years ago, the then 14-year-old was abducted from her Utah home and faced 9 months of horrific abuse at the hands of her two captors. Her abduction and miraculous rescue gained international attention. Well, today, Smart is a motivational speaker, best-selling author, and advocate for those who've experienced trauma. She spoke with reporters about her journey from victim to advocate.
Well, following right along that theme of courage, that is doing something I thought I couldn't. I would say it was definitely a slow wade into the deep end of the pool. It just was step by step and listening and learning from others who have gone before me and listening to other victims and meeting with other families who have had missing children, missing members of their family, or they've been sexually exploited in some manner, and coming to realize that actually what happened to me is not so different from what happens to people all over the world every single day, and that it's hard and it's scary, but it needs to be talked about, and that there are happy endings and there are still miracles waiting to happen. I quickly realized that no matter what happened, my family would still love me. And so every decision that I made moving forward, it was with that thought that their love was worth surviving for. And so it always came down to, if I do this, will I live? If I don't do this, will I live? What will happen to me? And that's how I made every decision going through my entire 9 months until eventually I was rescued. There is no family that hurts any less than anyone else when their daughter or someone that they love is taken or disappears. There's no one that is any less deserving to have their ending, and whether that is a positive ending or a heartbreaking ending, that ending still deserves to happen, because as I have traveled and listened to parents and listened to family members and the pain that they carry with them every day, the pain of the not knowing is the worst part, and where there are so many women and girls, people who of different ethnicities who weren't born white and blonde haired, and who didn't come maybe from a affluent neighborhood. I mean, they deserve the same amount of care that I received, that my family has received. Unfortunately, rape and sexual violence is so common. I don't know what the statistics are up here in Canada, but I imagine they're similar to the States, which is about 1 in 5, and even in some places as high as 1 in 3 women are sexually abused. And that is horrific. And you think, if that's really true, 1 in 3, 1 in 5, how are we not doing more? Why are we not being taught how to respond? Because if someone discloses to you, do you know how to respond? Has everyone ever said, there's a good chance that you or someone you know is going to be abused in your lifetime, and this is what to do? I mean, everyone knows if you catch on fire, stop, drop, and roll. But I don't actually know anyone who's used stop, drop, and roll. But I know hundreds of people who have been abused, and no one's ever been told what they should do. So the first thing to do is to believe them, So We Believe You is to support victims, but it's also to educate communities on how to respond and how to give support and lasting care to survivors as they come out and disclose what's happened to them.
The reality is, it's not just about the wind for these projects. It's about the ability to develop the project.
From Port-au-Port to Botwood, wind energy projects are being pitched right across the province. But what makes Central such a world-class location? I'll ask those making the pitch just ahead. we've heard a lot about the $12 billion wind-to-energy project being proposed for the Port-au-Port Peninsula, and now a similar mega project is being proposed in central Newfoundland. Exploits Valley Renewable Energy Corporation is putting in a bid to build a wind-to-hydrogen and ammonia project in the town of Botwood, and it's holding public information sessions in the area to get residents on board. Joining me now are CEO James Eady and Adam Buckle, the CFO of Marine Group of Companies. So, Mr. Eady, can you start by telling us about the scope of this project? What are you hoping to do here?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about the scale and size of these mega projects. Our project initial phase we're targeting is 1,000 megawatts of wind, which would be connected to a large-scale energy storage system from a Canadian company that's our partner, HydroStore. And then the HydroStore system would be used to smooth out the energy profile and to operate on an efficient basis the hydrogen and ammonia facility. Looking around 1,000 megawatts with the hydrogen and ammonia facility as a first phase, as well as the port infrastructure in the port of Botwood, we'd be looking on a total investment of roughly $3 billion. And then looking at a full scale of the project, that number would reach closer to $6 billion. We'd be looking at roughly a 4 to 5 megawatt turbine, which would put the first phase of roughly 1,000 megawatts, the range of around 200 turbines.
And why is Botwood, that area, why is that an attractive location for this project? When you think of like the central Newfoundland area, wind isn't something that immediately comes to mind. What is it about that area that's attractive for this project?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you've got a lot of companies looking in Newfoundland now. And the reality is it's not just about the wind for these projects. It's about the ability to develop the project. And, you know, it's true that the wind is marginally less in central Newfoundland. It's pretty much world-class still. I think all of Newfoundland has a world-class wind resource. But we just like the fact that the site which we're focusing on is located on old brownfield lands with respect to the old Abitibi consolidated property, as well as the old infrastructure from the port, the underutilized port infrastructure in the Botwood port. Botwood port has great bones. Really, our relationship was driven through the port. The port really is the access to the market for the end product. And so I think it was really putting a project together around that port with lands close enough to serve that port.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Buckle, I don't know if you want to jump in on this question, but you've been holding some public meetings. Can you talk a bit about what people are saying to you about this project?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Carolyn. You know, it's when we have a major project like this, you need to consult with stakeholders. We need to hear from everyone. We need to hear they need to hear our excitement. We need to share in their excitement as well. But, you know, there are going to be some concerns. These things, there's a few turbines going up. There is opportunities, but the concerns are equally important to talk through and think through. That would form part of our environmental assessment and permitting process. Now, the other key piece that's really exciting, of course, is the economic impact here. You know, when you think of a major project inside Newfoundland and Labrador, our project, James has talked about, you know, the land can handle on full phased 3 gigawatts of power. So that would equate to 2,000 construction jobs. That's a lot of jobs. And when you think of, from the economist perspective, some economists view that as a 2-to-1 ratio to indirect jobs, you know, accommodation services, food services. So that's another 1,000 jobs through the construction period. That's a massive economic impact and boost to the local region here in central Newfoundland. It's at a scale where, you know, we want to bring Newfoundland and Labradorians home. We want to look at hiring Newfoundland and Labradorians first. But it does take a proactive strategy and really digging into it and how can we support this project with the high demand on labor. And that's something we're working on today.
And we are hearing a lot about the growing demand for hydrogen and ammonia energy globally. Canada has that hydrogen alliance with Germany, and governments are definitely keen on growing the industry. But as more and more companies try to get their foot in the door, how much pressure are you feeling to move quickly to capitalize on this opportunity?
That's a great question. There's been a lot of talk about speed in the industry, and I think it's important. But at the same time, these are massive infrastructure projects, and they have a development cycle that needs to be followed for best practices. The reality, I mean, we look at it really as a commodity-driven basis, and you can look at places that have a good copper find in the mining industry, where you'll have 2 or 3 copper mines within 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers of each other. We really equate it the same with these projects. So we're not really worried on the demand side for the end product.
Well, James Eady and Adam Buckle, thank you so much for this. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
A self-proclaimed corner boy, Brian Carey grew up walking the streets of St. John's, so perhaps it's not surprising that the photographer is especially proud of his street photography, capturing portraits of people in and around the downtown. Have a look.
I'm a corner boy. I grew up in St. John's. I lived on different parts of downtown. So I basically roamed these streets and these alleyways when I was a little boy, and I'm still doing it. Around 15 years ago, I was doing some professional work. I was doing a lot of scenic photography, and I really wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something more grounded. I wanted to do something more personal. I just moved more and more into street portraits. When I do something, I want to push my comfort zone. It helps me expand my horizons and my viewpoints and my understandings. I did a rough estimate back in 2014. I photographed around 1,400 people. And a friend of mine asked me, he said, how many of those give you any grief? And I couldn't fill out one hand. I think I came to 4. There's a bit of tension there sometimes, but I'm becoming very good at diffusing that. A lot of it is my approach, not pressing anyone and showing respect and not judging anyone too. Sometimes what I do, if I think they like it, I'll give them a copy actually. I give a lot of people 8x10 prints, kind of my way of saying thank you. There's a Chinese proverb which I put on one of my videos, and it goes, a little fragrance clings to the hand that gives flowers. If you do that, you have the smell of flowers in your hands too, so it's just, it's pretty sweet. My favorite photo is my next one, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be a portrait I did of Ron Hines. So I took my portrait of Ron and I made a mosaic of 100 pictures of St. John's. It's a headshot mosaic, and I call it the St. John's Waltz. If I had to pick one, that would be it right now.
Was a beautiful portrait, for sure. Okay, so time for a look at the long range heading into the weekend. How are things looking?
Things are changing. We do have some milder temperatures moving in for some of us, not all of us, but let's just jump right into it to show you Friday evening into Saturday. So there's a couple of areas of low pressure that you can see there, one off the coast of Labrador and the other just to the south of Newfoundland. That is going to stay south of Newfoundland for the time being, because as we get into Saturday, that will start to affect parts of at least the island and then southeastern Labrador. So temperatures are going to dip a little bit once we get there on Saturday, between about -4 to -8 across the island, and then similar forecast up across Labrador, except Lab West you'll be sitting under lots of sunshine at -11, and as you head towards the coast, those temperatures will be a bit milder than that, so about -8. But that snow will move in later on in the evening on Saturday. Now as we head into Sunday, area of low pressure still very much in place. It's going to bring some milder air as we head into the evening hours on Sunday. In fact, some of these temperatures well above 0, 2, 3, 4 degrees, which means all the precipitation will likely change over to rain. And it certainly looks like that will happen towards coast, northern peninsula, and then all along the northeast coast of the island as we head into the evening hours. So temperatures will sit between, like I said, 1, 2, or 3 degrees in the mild areas. Otherwise, between -3 and -4 across the island. Temperatures will warm up, though, as we get into the long range forecast. Now, as far as the rest of Labrador is concerned, Nain -4, that is considerably warmer than it has been. And then even Lab City, you'll sit around -8 through the day. If we take a look at the long range forecast, temperature is climbing 0 degrees by the time we get into Tuesday. This may be there's a bit of disagreement on Monday, but at this point it's looking like flurries, and Tuesday, same thing. We may see some rain in the mix. Now for central Newfoundland, same thing. Right now I have you at -1, but that temperature could climb up by Tuesday, certainly looking at those temperatures above 0. And that's the story for the west as well. Now for eastern Labrador, your temperatures along the coast will be a bit warmer than this. So by Monday, like I said, you will see that change over to rain. But for western Labrador, hovering around the 0-degree mark as you start Monday and then continue into Tuesday. So well above where you should be sitting this time of year. Take a look at this shot. This is our weather photo of the day, or our viewer photo of the day. This shot was taken in Twillingate. Thank you so much. Some of the most beautiful sunsets happen in Twillingate. Tara shared this shot with us. If you have any weather photos, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, lovely. The texture of the wood on the boat and the hills and the sky. Great shot.
Great shot, yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Tara. Well, that's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you again tomorrow.
Good night.